So for all the fans out there that have read the Deadpool comics, have seen the recent movie that was released on Blu-ray, there is talk about the next Deadpool movie. Already said that there will be Cable in the next movie. What I'm actually looking forward to, and what I'm really hoping they'll do, is enter the different voices in Deadpool's head. For those that don't know, there's a very logical, still insane, but very logical voice, and also a very stupid, crazy voice. And a lot of people think it'll be hard to do it because for comics, you can use thought bubbles, different kinds of colors and fonts. But for movies, you don't see thought bubbles. And what I was really hoping was that they'd have voice actors. One in particular that has done the voice for Deadpool many times before is Nolan North. And he's a very good voice actor for Deadpool, and I think if they were to bring in multiple personalities for his inside his head, that Nolan North should definitely be one of the voices. Again, I don't have any news related to the next movie. Nothing has been said. Those are just my hopes for the next movie. But again, personally, I think they're missing out on a lot of comedy without the voices, but I think for that first movie it would have been too much going on.
See, I really love the idea of having the split personalities since it makes up a big factor of not one just his humor, but his thought process, and then the back and forth between the two separate voices and himself. You got the dim-witted voice and then the more sophisticated, intellectual one that's still kind of out there and nuts, but at the same time kind of draws back and points out their own behavior. And it would add so much more to the movie, so much more meta-ness to it, let alone. But also, it would, you could do some jokes about it where it would point out the plot and even point out that it's pointing out the plot and things like that. And in the comics, the voices in his head aren't just there for comedy's sake, but they can further the story, be part of the main story. It adds so much more into it, story-wise, but let alone it's two extra characters all inside his head that Ryan Reynolds himself could do two separate voices for, and, you know, kind of showcase his voice acting a little bit. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, let's say they got voice actors. Who would you want to see do the voices for the multiple personalities?
One guy that comes to mind, what is it? He's the voice actor for Bender from Futurama. I can't remember his name right now, but I think he would be probably one of the better ones to do it. I mean, he has more in his repertoire than just Bender, but he's pretty funny. I support the multiple personalities inside the head, but I think this first movie was just trying to get their toes wet, trying to get a movie made because it had been in high demand for so long. So I think if, when they do the second one, if they bring him in, that'd be the perfect time because you can't throw all your eggs in one basket and expect the whole mass majority of people to be like, oh, okay, I know what's going on. Well, you easily, gradually push them into it, maybe give them a whole movie where they don't have to deal with that. And then second movie, bring them in. I mean, that seems like a logical movement for me anyway.
Well, see, and the whole thing about it is that we've been with these voices for so long in the comics, and like you said, they didn't want to throw all their hand out in one go. They wanted to hold back a little bit and make sure they made a great movie that fans fell in love with before they entered more of the crazy wackiness part of it. Like they said, they didn't want to make Vanessa into a mutant just yet, so fans could fall in love with these characters, and then we could dig a little deeper. And I hope and I feel that they're going to go that way in the next one. Another good voice actor choice is, I cannot remember the guy's name, but he's done the voice of Ratchet. No, not Ratchet. Yeah, I think it is Ratchet. He did one of the voices from Ratchet and Clank. I think it is Ratchet. But also the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi during the Clone Wars, and also now in Rebels. He's very good with voices, and also very talented with emoting emotions behind those voices. I think he could do a really good job with one of those too.
I think, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I think he should do the rationalized voice, honestly, if he's going to do one.
Actually, I'm pretty sure he did Ratchet. Pretty sure. Another good choice would be one that I really like, and of course everybody knows his voice and stuff, because he's done it on Family Guy as the guy in the wheelchair. He was Brock Sampson, but I could see the stupider, more crazier voice being that guy's voice, so it would give a little bit of a dichotomy to the kind of stoic and intellectual one, and the more dumber down, meat-headed one would be his voice. I could see that working really well too.
Sad but true. I see that.
And if you guys haven't really gotten an in-close look into Deadpool and the split personalities, I think they did a really good job with the Deadpool video game, because there's a lot of the split personalities in that one, and it rang very true to the comics, and it was funny as fuck. Especially when he envisions the party scene and both the voices are just going back and forth about it.
Yeah, if they are gonna do multiple voices, they should definitely look at that game for, not really, I mean, reference, as well as the comic books, but that game did really well with his multiple personalities.
I kind of do have a question. So, for people that didn't really read the comic books at all to experience what the multiple personalities of Deadpool were, but they did go see the movie. So, like I myself, I never read the comic books, but I really enjoyed the movie. Do you think that it's going to tie in, or I'm sorry, do you feel that it's going to tie up a lot of loose ends as to understanding Deadpool's personality and why Wade Wilson is the way that he is?
Well, one way you can actually...
Sorry.
One way you could... You go ahead.
Since a lot of people probably haven't known Deadpool until the movie, but definitely for all the fans, when Deadpool was first introduced, he didn't have the multiple voices in his head. Those did come later on. But that was more, I think, a lot of people have speculations of where they came from as a part of, like, those are his ways of compartmentalizing everything that he's done and all of the pain that he's gone through. That's where the voices have come from. Other people just think he's gone totally batshit nuts and have, what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Schizophrenia?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, split personalities.
Okay.
But I think the voices will definitely help, new people to Deadpool and fans kind of circle around and be like, this is the perfect Deadpool right here on screen.
Yeah, it definitely would add to the character and bring a fullness of the character. And I always thought, this is just me being weird, I thought it was because of when he got the cancer in his brain and the tumor started growing and regenerating nonstop, that it just added layers to his already craziness. And then you could also say, to tie in with the movie, you remember when he got stabbed trying to save Vanessa in the brain? You could just be like, oh yeah, since then now he has the voices. Like, just to make it tie in with the movie version.
I'm not going to lie, when Deanne first showed me this picture, I almost wanted to ask her if that was the Flash and the Punisher fighting, just to be funny. Like,
oh my god.
Like, I knew what it was.
I would have had to have I would have had a shit fit.
One of those Facebook memes.
Well, I knew what it was, but I did really want to like fuck with her. Really
So
bad.
trolly, so trolly.
I know. Be like,
Not
Deanne,
cool.
is that the Flash and the Punisher? Just watch her go for hours. I would be so entertained. But no, I really did. Sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, fanboys from both sides unite just for this once to go after you.
It'd be like one of those piss off all the fandom memes.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my god. Yeah, I saw, it's kind of off topic, but I did see one of those earlier that was like, R.I.P. Kurt Cobain. It's been 21 years. It was a picture of David Spade.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So yeah, but no, like I was really curious about that because I think that you know, even though I didn't read the comic books and I haven't witnessed like anything to do with Deadpool's multiple personalities or anything like that, I was really hoping that like in the second movie they wouldn't miss out on that, you know, that element, because in the first one they really, you know, dug deep into who Wade Wilson was and what, you know, made him mentally decide that yes, he wanted to go through the whole thing with Ajax or whatever and to really become Deadpool. And so, you know, that's part of what made the first one so good, was they were so good at explaining the process, and you don't want to lose that element just because you're creating a second movie. And I'm hoping, you know, since they were so passionate about the first one, that they'll be able to reproduce that in the second one by continuing to explain, you know, in detail the changes that happen as he is Deadpool. You know what I mean?
And he's a character that's really progressed in a short amount of time. Because, like she said, when he started out, he didn't have those split voices. He had a sense of humor to him, but he was more of a down and dirty assassin who first appeared trying to kill off the X-Men and I think it was New Mutants. And just over time, he's grown so much. And I do like the backstory from the movie because it very closely, yes, they had to change a few things, but it very closely followed the comics. And then the fact that the only reason why he went to that program was to try to get cured for Vanessa. And in the comics, just like in the movie, he left Vanessa like that and was heartbroken by it, but did it for her and had hope that maybe they could save him so he could go back to her.
Right.
See, my only concern is doing the multiple voices, is getting it right and not overdoing it.
Well, see, they didn't overdo it with the meta jokes and the fourth wall breaking. I think Ryan Reynolds, especially with that director and writers from the movie that they did that I love, which is that zombie movie, Zombieland, they know how to strike that perfect balance. And even more so is like they found out ways of creating even better humor from not having enough money to do big action sets. Like that whole reason behind him never having that bag of ammo was because they just couldn't afford to have huge shootout scenes. So I think they could, with the same team, I think they could easily pull it off. Now, of course, if Fox starts to dip their big hand into it and trying to tell them how to do things, then yeah, it could go wrong. But I think Fox learned from the last movie, like, we just let these guys do what they do. They know how to do this. They love this character. We let them do it. And they can pull off the voices, like, nobody else hears it but Deadpool, and maybe there's a few comments about it, and there's some really great moments that can come out of that.
Honestly, I don't think the director of Deadpool or even Ryan Reynolds is going to let Fox fuck around with it that much. Just with how badly Fox did try and get that movie to be PG-13, and they were like, no, it can't be.
Exactly.
I mean, Ryan Reynolds is a fan of it. Almost everyone that was part of that film is a fan of Deadpool. So I really don't think they're going to mess with it that much. I mean, I get the whole part of they could overdo it because, yes, there is always that fear of walking a very thin line between not doing it enough and people just being like, well, what happened there? Or doing it too much and people being like, okay, that's just kind of annoying. So.
Well, and, you know, they let Tim Miller, a very young director who's never done any movies, only some of the greatest video game cutscenes and trailers that have ever came out. They gave him his chance and ran with it. They could have went with a bigger director or an easier one to handle, which this guy has no filter. He will tell you what you think. He's very passionate about the things that he chooses to do. And I don't see him or either, like you said, Ryan Reynolds letting Fox in any way try to fuck this movie. Like, they did Colossus better than anybody else has in the last how many X-Men movies?
I know.
In Colossus's defense, he was not mentioned very much in X2. He briefly appeared.
But still, though, he was. I think it was in. He was in the first one too, wasn't he? He was in. Was he in all three?
He was in a few of them. I think he was in X2, X3, and I think one of the newer ones, I believe. But I know a lot of people who have said this, especially after the newest X-Men movie has came out, that, you know, Deadpool did X-Men better than X-Men does X-Men. I would agree. So.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing that they did right.
So they can do that better than what they've been doing it, even with praise that Bryan Singer gets most of the time. That tells me that they have it in good hands. You know what I mean?